Here's my favorite way to prep for earnings using AI. I've been studying the markets, analyzing them for 26 plus years, and I use this approach every earnings season. So this works whether you're looking at one stock that you already have in watch list, results from a scan, or anything else. Now, before we dive into the charts, important reminder that trading and investing, especially around earnings, can be risky business. So it's your responsibility to evaluate any information, opinion, advice, or other content contained in this video. To demonstrate this, I'm going to be using current market action, and we happen to have 4 major tech stocks reporting earnings this afternoon. One of them is Amazon, as you see the chart here. Now, what it is that I want you to do when it comes to earnings is look back, but in a very strategic way. And AI tools can help you do that. In my explorations, I've seen that Perplexity AI is one of the LLMs, the large language models, that I think is a little bit more well-versed in financial information. And it's a very simple prompt that you can use. Here is Perplexity AI. I went ahead and made a free account tied to my Gmail address so that I could actually dive in and save the information. If you do more robust research, you're going to have to use one of the paid plans, but you should be able to follow what I'm about to do right here, okay? So I have this prompt ready to go, so you don't have to hear me talk it out. So it starts with today's date, the markets that you want to watch. So in this case, these 4 tech stocks that are reporting earnings. And what you want to ask Perplexity is, what were their earnings report dates over the past 4 quarters, right? And there's going to be a specific reason for that. All right, so now you just go here, you hit the arrow to submit. It'll think. It needs a second sometimes. And then it should be able to give you a little table or list of the earnings dates. So here it's populating it. And now we have this gorgeous little table. Amazing, right? Now, the best part is that when it gives you the results, you can see it has these little buttons after. So it's showing you the source. So if you want to dive deeper and make 100% sure, that's fine. For the sake of this video, we're going to just take the Amazon dates as they are, okay, and go to the next step. So this was step 1. Find out the earnings dates that were over the past 4 quarters, not including the one that is happening for the date that's approaching. Now we set that information aside and we go back to the chart. So I have that off another window. Now on your chart, it always helps if you have a visual. So some software platforms will actually have ability to plot earnings. I currently use TradeStation, and I prefer to do this manually because it actually also gives me a sense of like the history of the movement. So I'm looking at the Amazon chart and I'm going from most recent back to oldest. So I'm just going to use the vertical line feature here on TradeStation, okay? Very simple. I already have it programmed to just be yellow and be see-through or transparent. That way I can put it on that earnings date and then see how the market behaved into it, and then especially the day after the earnings were released. That's especially the case for earnings that are posted after the New York close, right? The action really shows up the next day. So starting with February 5th, 2026, all right, I'm just going to go slide it over to February 5th, 2026. So this was the day the earnings were released, and you can see there was a gap down after. There was also a pre-earnings gap. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to make another mark here. So then you go back about 3 months. So that's going to be to October 31st of 2025, according to the Perplexity table results. Great. In this case, I can see that there was a gap higher. So already I know that Amazon can sometimes have gaps around earnings. Let's keep going. Next one is August 1st, 2025. Again, there was a gap. And last but not least, if we're just going 4 quarters back, May 1st, 2025 in this example. And notice here there was a gap, but it was a small one. So what this does right away is give me some perspective. All right, this stock tends to gap when their earnings releases, but they're not always huge. They're not always in a particular direction. And I want to focus on the chart technicals here, but you could, if you want to go a layer deeper, look at the fundamentals and be like, hey, what led to that gap lower, right? All right, so we got the past 4 quarters of earnings dates. We plotted them on our chart. Now you're going to do something that's going to be super powerful. You're going to look at both the linear earnings effect, meaning what happened just a quarter ago versus what's upcoming. So let's start with that. So if we go to the most recent yellow line here, okay, in February, right, the most recent quarterly report, there was a corrective move higher here. And then the earnings came out and everything gapped and dropped down and then consolidated for a few months. It started picking up again. So now we at least have a perspective of where the trend was, and now we're coming into earnings 3 months later. That's the linear pathway, right? Quarter to quarter. But now I want you to put your GANN thinking hat on and think, okay, companies have some rhythm to how they spend money. For example, Amazon and capital expenditure, right? To expand its various lines or grow and build new ones. What about looking at the earnings, not just relating to the most recent quarter, but to the exact same quarter 4 quarters ago? That's why we plot this. So here we are, April 29th. If we go back 4 quarters, that brings us to the first line we plotted, right? The last data point Perplexity gave us, which is the earnings release date from exactly 1 year ago. And now look at this. It's kind of interesting. In this particular case, Amazon stock had been falling and then consolidated. Here, in current times on this particular chart, Amazon stock fell, already consolidated, and is already higher. So the trend of the action going into right now, the spring earnings, is different than the trend that went into last spring earnings. The more you do this, even if it's just off one stock or a small watch list, and even better if it's off of a lot of stocks in practice, the more you will start to not only have a sense of that linear movement. Okay, how did we do last quarter? How are we doing this quarter, right? That's important for like the growth of the company and what a shareholder might receive as their dividend from any earnings. But when you're studying the chart to look for a trade opportunity, you want what I'm calling the seasonal earnings pattern. And that's where you can start to look back at not just even 4 years ago, you could go deeper. You could go back to Perplexity and say, hey, I'm really dialing into Amazon stock right now. Can you give me all of the Q2, right? That would be April, May, earnings release dates for the past 5 years, 10 years. And because of AI and the convenience and speed at which it gives you the information, you could dive deeper and start to see is maybe there a spring sort of pattern to the earnings activity. This is not for you to set up a direct trade. This is for you to prepare your charts, then go in my case, with price action, market timing, and momentum to see if opportunities are rising. So if you found value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel so you get notifications as soon as my videos are up, and I'll catch you in the next one. You can sign up at the link to get my hot, timely, actionable updates as soon as I publish right to your inbox.